Hey, beautiful beings. My name's Emily Jackman. I'm really glad that you're here. I'm going to be talking about my multidimensional trip, astral travel into all time space realities through elemental awareness. I hope that you've received some of my work before. If you haven't, then feel free to follow me on Ascend with Emily on both Facebook and Instagram, and website holdingspaceforyou.co.uk. On my link tree, you can access loads of free, beautiful gifts to accelerate your spiritual evolution and your growth, and to understand the multidimensionality, to understand ascension, to understand the spiritual path through your quantum vibration. So grab your Freedom Masterclass, which is like a crash course in spirituality if you haven't yet accessed that, knowing that the path goes really far and it's really eternal and never ending. But the fun is having these baseline principles for you to then access your own unique perspective on it. And this experience is all about perspectives. Now, you may have heard that a million times over, everyone's got their own perspective. However, in terms of evolution, in terms of a spiritual perspective on perspectives, it's the idea that you could change your perspective at any moment, meaning that your perspective is always fluid and is really, one could say, irrelevant to what you really strongly believe is right, because you could change your perspective, meaning that you could conceptualize that to say, who am I? Does what I do even matter? Does what I believe even have any foundation to it? And really, then that's your choice point to say, seeing as I do have the ability to change my perspective on anything if offered new information on it, then what will be a higher path for me to choose and therefore experience through an idea of choice, that you then get to design your life and get to design the experiences that you would be most excited by. However, a deeper understanding of perspective is that all is one. If you've ever heard of a concept of oneness, that, let's say, for example, you are made of atoms and that so is everything else. Therefore, it is just an energy reality having its many perspectives, but that it is all from the same source, meaning that the perspective that you're carrying is unique. However, it's adding to the all, meaning that it's not a unique perspective, it's an addition to everything else, as equal, as perfect, and there's no comparison in it. It's almost like saying one drop in the ocean and then all the drops make the ocean. Separate them out all out and they're all a drop, and they've all got their unique perspectives, but they make up the ocean. So you make up the ocean of energy, you make up the cosmos, and you are the perspective of the cosmos. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm. You're the smaller perspective of the larger, but your small perspective creates the larger. However, in this training, it's deepening the idea that as a reflective spiritual practice, we do engage in the idea that your perspective is your experience, is the reason you're here, to have an experience of a perspective. Now, thinking about that in a visual term, should I get that now? I will just get something now. One sec. If you've ever heard of a tube torus, let's just look at this, for example. Like, let's say a 2D would be like a flat. So just say you saw a coin on the edge of a table, you'd say that's flat if you were looking at eye level. So let's just say that a circle flat would just look like a line to you, and that is one perspective of reality, flat line. Then a different perspective of the same could be a circle. Same thing, different perspective. Then if you were going to elongate this out, it turns into a tunnel. So there's a further perspective. Then if this was allowed to be big, it will be a spherical. So how many perspectives can be within this if you look at it like a 360-degree angle, for example, from within? And this is like the perspective that we're experiencing now. We're placing ourselves in the middle perspective, and we're observing that there are all the other perspectives. And that our job could be to hold the space, to be in the center, to say, look at all these beautiful perspectives, that none could be wrong and none could be right. They're just perspectives, however I wish to perceive. So say this is Earth and you're sat here. If you're just placing yourself there, you're only going to see your perspective and you're not going to see all the others. You're going to feel that they're separate and illusionary. However, if you place yourself at the center, you can say, oh, like I am all this. So this is the idea of saying like we're all one, and the idea of saying that we're Gaia. Now, if you have ever seen a sphere like this, then look what happens. Ooh. So then this could be viewed as, this is in physics called a tube torus. So let's now say that Earth or you or something, like any spherical idea, an atom, let's say Earth is now in this. This is the electromagnetic frequency. This is the tube torus that is around it, around all beings. You've got one of these around you. You've got it around each of your cells. You've got it around Earth. So then it's like, oh, could I take myself on that perspective? Could I move my perspective from being on Earth, inside Earth, around Earth, back in? Could I take my perspective of myself saying little old me, or go, oh, when I breathe, the air goes out and then it goes back round, and I'm aware that I'm having all these different perspectives at once, if you choose to move your awareness there. Now, my recent experience was so psychedelic. So I was literally just lying in bed, meditating, and I'll be recording the practice for you to use, or we might do it in this training. So I've been working with the womb space recently, and that applies to all human beings, where you'd go into the womb space inside the hips and move your awareness to the center point and then push out. But then as soon as I get to the outside of my hips, I feel the love come in. So the characteristics that will be based on the hips and the womb is being held, is being loved. So say that you took the perspective that your main focus in life was having the perspective of creation, of a womb, of how a child would be conceived through love. They'd be held, they'd be grown, they'd be fed, they'd be given everything they need to expand and come to life and be here. They'd be wanted. That perspective, if you took that perspective, because if you look at the evolution of humans, the mind has been prioritized as the main exciting, the main focal point of creation, having an idea from here. Although an idea to me is that your whole physical body is allowing you this experience, and an idea is like breathed in this moment, so it comes from outside in when you're allowing it to come in. So his main focus has been on the brain, like the brain, and it's just like, it's just a perspective. So that's the understanding of spiritual awakening, that it's going from a man-made idea of the brain does all these things and we're only thinking with the brain. I think, therefore I am. I feel, therefore I am. I create, therefore I am. Could be any perspective. It's just that humans have been confined to this one idea. I think, therefore I am. I think this, I think that. Who cares? How do you feel about it? I want that perspective. I create this. I think this. What about what you create with your thoughts? Never mind just having really interesting intellectual thoughts, or they're so intelligent, they got high IQ. What did they create with it? What did they feel from it? The person that discovered that the atom was many more light particles, they felt severely depressed and suicidal, but they could think a lot. Doesn't get you anywhere that we're trying to go. So evolution is about feeling now. Evolution is about creating. Evolution is about being able to move your perspective. And in doing so, you would obviously cultivate compassion, because then if you can just take the one perspective of a simple meditation practice of feel the sensations in your hand, give them some characteristics, notice what characteristics and qualities they can pull into your awareness. As in, like my hand, I can say, if I put take my awareness off my thoughts and put it into my hand, I can say I'm so stretchy, I'm so malleable, I'm so gentle, I'm so soft, I'm so helpful, I'm so strong. And you can take these characteristics and internalize them to make you aware of what you always are, if you moved your awareness to that alternative perspective. So in my practices, you'll go into the womb space and you'll take on the perspective of what you would envision a womb to be like as a being. And in doing so, you explore that area within yourself and you really understand, of course, that's who I am. Of course, I'm really, really loving. Of course, I'm eternally creative. Of course, I'm loved, loving, because you're actually sitting inside it. You're warm, you're gooey, you take your time. You know, if a baby is growing within you, take your time, nurturing, slow, aware that things are changing and things are growing always, aware that there's certain pathways to take to create life, to ensure that life is safe and held and can be there. And then taking that same principle, obviously you could go anywhere in your body, but obviously we'd hope that you'd try and explore your chakra points because they hold really key characteristics. If you were going to go into the base of your spine, if you were going to go into your stomach, you go into your heart, your throat, your third eye, your crown, you take those characteristics that you would use through exploring a more poetic, metaphorical explanation to life, and therefore embody those characteristics of which they would spark an idea about yourself that maybe had been dormant or ignored or just not as interested in for you to explore yet, and now you want that. So then I'd go into the heart. So I go into the womb and I push out, I go into the center of the awareness, and then it just is like this ball of love. And then instantly the idea is that if there's a ball of love, you can feel the exact same pressure on the outside holding you, and it goes down to my root, goes down to my legs, goes all around. Go into my heart, do exactly the same thing. Understand the characteristics. If you're new to this path, obviously maybe you won't be experiencing like the physical vibratory aspects of the internal like spark of the divine. You might not necessarily feel the immediate channel, the immediate vibration, the immediate awareness of 0 point, of divine neutrality, of the awareness of all that is. However, let's just say that you felt in the center point of your body and then you expanded out into a ball, and then again you feel that on the outside, and then again you go into your pineal gland and feel this like overflow of golden honey, and then it ripples down your body. So you've got these 3 balls, and I hope you can feel that. Oh, I can feel it straight away. Activation is going to be good. So you open up these 3 balls and then they kind of merge into one. Yeah, you could imagine those 3 golden balls, and then it just feels like you're this solid, beautiful object. You expand that out, and this is called your column of ascension. A teacher of mine, Sandrine, calls it a column of teleportation. So just like this tube torus, this center is what I'm discussing now. So that field of your awareness then is this external movement, both up and down, continually around you. This therefore would be pulling earth energy up. This would be pulling sky energy down, you embracing it all into the heart, the center of you. Now, let's just say that you're experiencing this. So you've got your 3 bubbles of light and they're pushed out, and then you feel that there's this column of light around you, and you expand it like above and below. So then below is when you ground. So you'd go down with something that would feel in resonance with you, maybe a magnetic silver cord, maybe any color cord that just feels like it's pulling you down, and into the microcosm, macrocosm, the center of Gaia, center of Earth. So then you're on top, but you're activating that you've got these points of communication within you. You ground down, you realize, oh, she's got the heart as well, but I'm grounding down into her, as above, so below. There's no up or down. We're spinning in the void. So you ground down and then you go up, and the up is the idea of going to all that is, the source consciousness, but you can travel through anywhere you like. If you want to go to Pleiades, you want to go to Arcturus, you want to go to Sirius, you want to go to the moon, you send your antennae up, you elongate your column of ascension. You are in this tube, crystal tube of teleportation, Sandrine calls it. So then you connect to source, all that is. All that is the idea of the pineal gland, for example. But again, it's just this microcosm, macrocosm, because source heart you're connecting to. But just for you to kind of take yourself that you're the heart, that's the grounding, and that's the pineal gland, for example. to give you this idea that cosmos is alive, to give you the perspective that you are a living being within a living being, of which I know that you are. However, if you could personify that again, that there's cells in your body and they each have their own characteristics. You're a cell within the cosmos and you have your own characteristic, but you make up this living being. Now, if you can be alive in the cosmos, why wouldn't the cosmos be alive? How can life be in something that's not alive? How would you conceptualize that? I'm alive, but the cosmos is not alive, meaning I'm in death. What does death mean? Huh? So I activated my crystal tube of teleportation, my column of ascension, and was like just proper. So when you're doing this, you would, like, I can obviously see it while I'm talking about it, but because you've activated that you're the inner creating the reality outside yourself, you are saying those characteristics. You are like, oh wow, I am love, and it's pushing out in your fields. Then what happens is, obviously through manifestation, law of attraction, the same energy is called to you. We're a magnet, yeah. So the same energy is called to you. So that's why you feel these like rays that are exactly the same frequency supporting you, pushing against the bubble that you've created, and then it merges to one. So then you're in your tube, which has all become one. So you're in your own field that you've created from within, expanded it, called into the energy to match that. It's matched. You're then in that. You're anchored. Then you're sending that energy and that awareness of all three down. And you could also breathe from the gut brain, but we just can go womb for now because that's what happened. So then you're putting it down, and then again you're expanding the fields to be like, oh, my tube now is going to be the size of Earth, and it's going to go up, and you're like, oh, it's the size of the cosmos. And then you're like you understand, if you're just expanding the perspective to say, if I can feel this, then all beings could feel this. And that's how you would embrace the idea of oneness in the cosmos and actually move around in a reality which is the frequency of everything that you've embodied from within here. As in, I'm moving through womb creation energy. It's not air to me anymore. I'm not walking to the park. I'm walking within the womb of creation. I'm walking within the heart of creation. I'm actually moving through energy. But all from you, taking the perspective that you can use as metaphors, characteristics and qualities that separate areas of your body would hopefully experience if they were taken to that level of simple but experiential sensations and emotions, and then activated that to be your desire to actually continually experience that, continually see life in that way. Okay, so once I've merged, obviously, the idea of a womb of creation, all love, complete honey, super consciousness, I went up. So I was lying there, and what you can do with your ascension tube, column of ascension, is that in theory you're moving your awareness then again. So for the first time ever, it was just so different this time, because I moved. I said to myself, I allow myself to have any perspective in the cosmos. Usually I'm trying to tune into something. This time I said, I allow myself to have any perspective in the cosmos. And straight away, my perspective went from here, womb, and like the identity, the ID of the entity, Emily. I'm not an identity. I have an ID of this entity. This entity here associates with an ID. So my ID, which is ego, my ID, in that moment, you're experiencing presence of oneness, and therefore you're dropping the ego. However, you are still aware that you're there. You're holding the space of that you are going through this process, and you are so grateful, and you're happy. You're having it. But then really ultimately, like, the goal is that you lose the sense of identity because you're having that experience of oneness, right? So you're like, how can I be aware of what's happening to me as well as understanding that this is all me? So you can kind of see where the idea that your awareness would blur at that point. And that's obviously the process of meditation. Coming to that point of feeling that things are more you than you let on before. And therefore you place your awareness and you kind of play that dance with it. Say, oh, it feels really nice to be a womb. And then you're like, oh, I didn't associate with just being me then. Oh my God, I'm not just me if I can do it once. But when you're in that experience of a column of ascension, and tuning into the cosmos that you're magnetically attracting to be you also because you are it, then your identity, your ego space, your awareness would subside, correct? Like it would subside. So because I was said to myself, I can tune into anywhere in the cosmos, my awareness of Emily bilocated up, like almost going through like trees of branches of consciousness, frequency points. But it was bilocating so specifically, it was going through dimensions. Now, what's different about this in terms of an idea that you're experiencing something like that? Instead, this reality here of human incarnation on Earth was disappearing to me. This is where it was different to anything else. My perspective of where I was, of who I was, of what I was doing, my perspective had actually traveled my soul consciousness, my, let's say, ego for someone that is new to the path, soul consciousness for someone anchored in the path, source consciousness for someone that's like, yeah, I get you, babe. My ego awareness that I am, that of I, Emily, was no longer in the body of Emily. It went through a few and I'll discuss them. It went into entities in other locations in the cosmos, so that because I allowed myself to have the perspective, because I know that we're all one, I allowed myself to trust I am all that is. So if I want to take another perspective, I can, because that's me. So I jumped into other entities to the point that as I was going there and in there, I was also aware that there was this other me that I had just come from, but I literally allowed myself to forget who that was. I forgot I was a human. I forgot I was Emily. I allowed myself to forget and fully embrace where I was there. Now, here's where it's so beautiful. Because I was there, I literally had the choice to say, I don't need to go back there. If I really want to forget, if I'm just here and I want to stay here, I can forget that, because in that moment, now's the deep stuff, it is just a perspective. I am not actually having the experience of Emily for a specific reason. Soul, source, awareness chooses each moment to remain in this body to give itself the perspective of Emily. It is not here to be Emily. Awareness chooses freely to come into this vessel and then project out a perspective. But that thing, let's say that thing is this coconut oil. Let's say that awareness, ego, source, soul consciousness in me is this coconut oil, is actually a thing that animates this vessel. If this coconut oil is like, nah, fancy going over there now, it physically moves out and jumps somewhere else. Literally. It's a thing. My soul is a thing. My soul is not an invisible thing, invisible, can't place it thing. It's a thing. I am a thing. I am a thing. What's talking to you right now is a thing inside me, actually making sound. I went out as me. I'm not this. I went out. I'm going over here now. And then I was in that. So then the deepening of this is that the cognizing of it to make it more tangible is this truth of perspective. Now at this deeper level, it's not that, oh, we all have different perspectives. Yeah, the point is through multidimensional time space travel, you can have any perspective if you totally immerse yourself that it is just a perspective that you are holding in this time space reality, and you have all variations available to you because you're all that is, because it's a actual, oh, what does it look like here? Can I go on holiday? What does it look like in Spain? What does it look like through this vessel? What does it look like? What can I take from it? What can I learn? What does it mean when I'm stuck in this vessel? What do the cells, what does the density project? What does my soul project, try and project through this vessel? What's the perspective it has? So the perspective that I allowed myself to have was different dimensions. And in terms of saying that if I didn't want to come back here, it was because the other perspectives were as true as this. Because it is and was as true as this. It was this coming out and going there. And therefore that was my reality. My true reality, as true as this, to the point that, as I say, I was aware that I was in another reality, another dimension, another perspective, and that it was just a perspective that my soul can hop around the cosmos having, and that if I didn't want to choose to go back there, I would never even worry about it because I was no longer in that perspective. I was now me, here, doing this, fully immersed, just like I would be here recording this video, fully immersed in identifying with Emily. I was no longer identifying them. So, can you imagine this? Right now, you don't feel like you have the perspective of every human. Of course not, because you're having your perspective. But if for some reason you could jump out your body and jump into another person's body, just say a millionaire's that was doing the most amazing soul work, incredible, in love, helping loads of people, living their best life. Let's just say you could just jump into their body and that there was no awareness that you were them. You literally just jumped out and just went, I just choose to be this person now. Because I am just the inside. I'm just a vessel. It's no big deal. It's no like karma drama like, but whatever happened to her? It's literally as ignorant, as forgetful that you were to your past lives, as forgetful to anything ever. As much as you wanted to forget anything, you can actually forget your previous perspective by locating in the cosmos. Because right now you don't sit around going, I can't stop thinking about that ant's perspective. I can't stop thinking about that perspective. I can't stop thinking about that. You're just attached to this one. You're just truly attached to it. So you take that as the gospel that is really important. What you're doing is really, really important. And it is. But who's to say you being in that one isn't as important? And they're as important. And there and there and there and there. So because you can bilocate into other perspectives and dimensions, why not say that this one is the important one? Had a little message. Why not say that this one is the one that you've chosen to anchor in and is more important than bilocating and jumping, right? Why not? Because you're only going to be chasing, oh, look over here, look over here, look over here, look. And it's fine. This is super fun, super cool. But because you, once you're in it, you're like, this is the most important. That's just because you're in it. That's just because you're in it. Right? It's because you've got tunnel vision then. I am now this. Right? So one of the perspectives that I asked the elements to come in. I said, I know scientifically, and then spiritually, and then elementally, and then quantum physics, quantum vibrationally, I am water, plasma. And I want plasma to be spreading the entire cosmos. So I said, along these tree veins of the cosmos, along these frequency lines, I allowed my awareness to say, I want to share water into the entire cosmos, and I want to see where water exists in the cosmos. So like a water slide. Yeah, you're in a tunnel. You're going somewhere, you're traveling fast. Like you'd imagine your neural pathways to go when you see like graphics and they go, oh, going through the brain. Inserted this into a droplet of water at a point of creation, at a point of great design. I was in droplet of water fully immersed in being the water droplet, completely ignoring and ignorant to apparently I'm Emily, completely irrelevant, racing down what we'd label a river, but obviously in this dimension it has other names, but penetrating, racing down, woohoo, woohoo, oh my god, this is so woo, going down the river with all my buddies. Literally somatic experience, up, down. Do you think at that point this thing's going, hold on, Emily, I was in it, I was it, I wasn't Emily anymore, I was water droplet. So at that point, it was like I can see it all now. Yeah, to express it, you'd say it looked like trees and a mountain, a kind of Canadian, but that's us using the human Earth labels. Yeah. So at that point, just to place yourself inside that water droplet, if you actually woke up and were a water droplet, do you think there's like this hangover that will be going, oh, hold on a minute, no, sorry, no, this isn't right. No, everyone stop. River, stop flowing. I'm over there. I'm gonna be something else. You're in it. You're racing down the river. You're actually having the time of your life. So much to the point that being anything else would be ridiculous. Because you're just like right now, being someone else would seem ridiculous to you if you don't believe it. You'd be like, but it'll be ridiculous to be someone else. I'd love to have new things in my life, but I don't believe I can bilocate into someone else. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on doing the best I can. I'm focused on trying to be my best. I'm focused on trying to have a good time with me. But just the same as if you did bilocate into another, like your family aren't all praying they could swap bodies, are they? They're just trying to be the best self, because once you're in the vessel, that's what you came to experience. That's what you chose to experience. So just the same that this could bilocate into a water droplet, this bilocated into me to have my experience. This done that journey with me learning to bilocate into wherever I was going. I understood that I already bilocated into here. And then you're like reactivate with this choice point that you did actually come to bilocate your source soul consciousness into this vessel. And you're like, this is what I chose. This is crazy. But we are here to experience those bilocation multidimensional experiences because you are that. Because once you can access that, who's to say that this is the true me, that I only want to be here? The reason that, let's say mainstream, let's say the dimension, let's say the idea that you are just an ego and an entity, you are just you, the idea that unity, the idea of oneness, the idea of quantum physics, the idea of following a spiritual path has collapsed, was to enslave you to only access that one point. So if let's say that every single human can access their multi